make some charcoal to filter water and to just cook with, just to have some charcoal and to get a lot of this stuff out my way too. That's where I tore most of the branches off, where the storm broke this big old branch out of the tree. It's dried up and dead. I don't want it to fall on my head one day. I want to break up a lot of these branches, probably come out here with a chainsaw and a ladder, or maybe when I break these up, I can grab this and just twist it back and forth till it falls there. But for now, I'm making me a mound of embers, and it's pretty close to mud and water in the creek. And I've got, I don't know, 30 gallons of water bottled up. I'm gonna make basically like a mud cone or upside down pyramid type deal around the edges of it and cover it up so it can't spray it after I get it lit real good. I'll stack more on it, and that'll reduce how much oxygen gets to it. And instead of it all just burning up, it'll turn to charcoal. But one thing I've noticed about building fires, I noticed this when I was a child, is you have a lot of butterflies and moths come to the ashes after the fire's done and over with. They need those minerals. And we're part of nature too. We're not separate from it. It's as natural for us to build a skyscraper as for a bird to build a nest. And we've always been burning a lot of fires, controlling fires, and we've been making a lot of this CO2 for the plants to grow faster. And when people get afraid, they stop thinking rationally. And a lot of people have gotten afraid about the weather changing, and they've said, we've got to reduce CO2, because if you did that, every life on earth would die. Same thing with vegans. They don't really think it through, you know. If nothing ate the animals, everything would be desert. Every bit of vegetation would get stripped down if there wasn't something to keep it in check. There's no way to really have a perfect utopian paradise for all life on earth. Everything living is consuming other living things. It's just the way it is. But really, it's good to burn this. It's not good for this to just pile up super, super high and then one day the whole forest burn down. It's good to and that's also, I mean, it's good to have dead wood. You do need some dead wood. Like that dead branch there, all kind of animals will make a home in it. All kind of bees, woodpeckers will punch a hole in rotten dead wood to make homes. And fungi will grow in dead wood. So you need dead wood. I'm not saying burn up every bit of the dead wood. That's not what I'm saying. But, you know, normally there were Indians and settlers, and there were always people going through the woods and burning some of the extra dead wood, not just letting it all just pile up till a lightning strikes a pine tree and burns the whole forest down. And it's been raining. Like, all the ground up under all this is mud. There's some places where I have to put sticks over the mud so I can walk across it without losing my shoe in it. I've done pulled my shoe out of the mud 3 times. All that grass you see behind it, If you don't step on the grass, you're sinking ankle to knee deep in mud. So all that strip of green you see all through here and all back around that way and all back around that way is all mud. So this fire is like in the middle of a creek and a mud pit. And it's the same thing on the far side, in between my property and the other people's property, where you see that green. That's where all the water drains off and just piles up there. So this is really a good place to put this fire. I've already got, just a little while past that, I got a whole bunch of gallons of water that I'm going to bring out here. I don't think I'll ever need it, but just in case, I'm going to put, I don't know, maybe 20 different gallons of water. I could bring the 5-gallon bucket so I can just pull water out of the creek. But I mean, just like, I really don't have to worry about it spreading. And I'm not going to get up and walk 7 acres that way and just leave it. But it's not going nowhere. I'm going to go pile it up. You know, a lot of them longer sticks have probably burned in half. There's also a lot of deer tracks around here. But I don't know that that's deer that have done that. They normally scrape younger trees. I don't know what scraped up that tree like that. Maybe it was a deer last year, but it looks kind of fresher than that. I don't know what happened there. You see what I'm talking about? That tree right there, it's got all them scrapings in it. I've been digging in the creek, so I just kind of come over here and do some of the less labor-intensive work of building up my charcoal, kind of taking a break before I get back to the other. Plus, I just like to look at fire. See that potash? That white ash? You can make soap with hardwood potash. You could add potassium to the soil. And that's what happens when there's a lot of oxygen. And this is what happens when there's not a lot of oxygen. When there's not a lot of oxygen, you don't burn the wood all the way up. You just cook it in the charcoal. Ah, that's hot on my shins. A lot more heat coming off that side. Okay, the chickens, I miss being able to let them out all the time. I used to let the chickens out and let them eat grasshoppers and seeds and stuff. And now I got these 2 hawks, which since I sat up under the pine tree they were sitting in and they flew off, I haven't seen them. But I've seen them 3 times before that. There's one giant hawk, it's a freak of nature. A hawk shouldn't be that big. And one normal size hawk. And they've ate a few chickens. They've made it not safe to let the chickens out anymore. And it is a shame. I'm gonna have to go out. You know, it's illegal to kill a hawk. A lot of people kill them, but I've never killed a hawk. And that's tempting. I understand why people that do. I mean, like, I just drive from my house to my property and I'll see 2 or 3 hawks every time. They're definitely not in danger of going extinct around here. But I don't know. You can't out alpha the state. They can always call in reinforcements, and it ain't worth being put in prison or fined or whatever they do for killing hawks. So but I'm gonna have to get, I don't know, some kind of noise machine, or I don't know. I got to figure out something, because now that the chickens aren't being lit out, I'm having more grasshoppers eat more leaves off the fruit trees. And the chickens used to fertilize the fruit trees. There's still a lot of rabbits. They like to shit around the fruit trees. I don't know, I got... Maybe I can get my crow friends to start attacking hawks. I don't know about all that though. One of these trees, I'm gonna put a tree house in. Brittany's always wanted a tree house. When I was a kid, I wanted one too. And might as well make it happen. Charcoal also holds a lot of water, so it's good to have in the garden. It makes a safe place for beneficial microbes to live, and it adds carbon. You know, you need carbon and nitrogen, phosphorus and nitrogen, a little bit of potassium, and various trace minerals, you know. There's deer tracks behind me. Normally I'll show the deer tracks on the camera, but I've done it so many times, y'all have seen what deer tracks look like by now. I told y'all about this pond. It's a really shallow pond. You see where it's green water? That's where I've dug it deeper. This part is how it used to all be. Where that green grass is around here is really shallow, and it would dry up like twice a year. And I dug this middle part out, and it went the whole year without drying out all the way. And I'm thinking about getting all my gallon jugs and buckets and taking all this water out of here and digging it deeper and doing what I did last time. Last time, everything that got dug out of there, it got piled up here. And then I fell that pine tree over it. Here's a good shot of here. In that other video, what I was trying to tell about. You see that? Well, you don't really zoom in, but there's the level of water of my pond, the bigger pond. And then you see how the drop in elevation, when it overflows, it flows into this spot. The same place where I'm standing, when it overflows, it flows into that spot. And that is where it goes under the ground and goes that way. And I'm going to show that. Oh, look, that's not a deer track. That's the deer track. See? There's a deer track right there. A deer's been walking up this way. But I'm going to show you where the water leaves the property at. I'm going to walk up this hill. Like I say, you know, when the swamp overflows, when the creek flows over its bank, or that mini pond overflows, or the bigger pond overflows, the overflow of every single source of water on my property, it goes to that point right there. And then it goes underground. It goes underground up under this hill. And it doesn't go in a straight line. I imagine it moves along various tree roots and everything else. And it comes up under here. You see the neighbors. The pond behind me is older. Before I was even born, they had dug that pond behind me on my property. But this new pond across the street got dug way deeper. And all the water started flowing that way. Which the water already flew that way. Because it goes out into the woods, into a creek. And so on top of that creek, they dug that pond. And so now the water kind of flows there at a greater speed. You can see where the dragonfly is and everything. The water from my property, it goes up under the hill and it comes right here and goes down up under the road and into that pond there. Now sometimes if there's a hurricane and there's a lot of rain, there's a lot of extra rain, more than normal, all the little minnows in the pond across the street will try to swim against the current and they'll wind up in that puddle of water on my property. Now right now the water's too low for them to do that, to even think about doing that. Did you see these tracks where they bury the fiber optics? And there used to be people who'd come out here and dig for worms. And all the trees on the pond dam. There's several factors that undermine the dam, but I don't really want to block the water from flowing off of my property because I don't want the whole valley to flood. And also, there's all kind of wildlife down that way that needs the water. There's a lot of things that I learned from this Australian man. I need to get his name and share it with y'all. But he started noticing different plants that help move, how their roots form like a sponge in the earth. And he started planting things that the Australians had gotten rid of, and his neighbors were afraid all the plants he was planting was going to drink up all the water. And he was trying to explain to people it was going to create more water, not less. And they didn't believe him. And he wound up making a creek where there wasn't one, and then it turning into a river, and all kind of things, because plants pull water out of the air. Trees, like in the woods over there, all them hardwood trees, when they got tall, they got heavy and they pushed into the ground. And they also send roots deep in the ground that brings up the water table. And so really, I'm gonna let the chickens out since I'm out here to guard them from hawks. All these yellow weeds right here, they shade the ground. And they're so much easier to dig up and plant a garden up under them than just straight up grass. And so I'm letting them grow until early winter, late fall. And then they're gonna all dry up. And they're gonna be a bunch of dry stalks. And when that happens, I'm gonna chop them down and put them around the fruit trees. And this way, for one, it gets rid of grass. And that just makes it easier to plant a garden. Two, it'll help fertilize and mulch the fruit trees. But the reason I don't go ahead and chop it down now is there's a lot of pollinating insects. Like you see that butterfly over there. Not so much the honeybees, but different native bees. Are y'all alerting because of me? I don't see no hawk. I don't know, something scared one of them and now they all scared. There's not any hawk or anything. I guess they got scared of me. Let me get that. Sometimes the chickens, they're not big in a bird feeder. I ain't letting them do that. They can put that egg with them others. How many eggs do I got? Now I'm gonna keep a check on that fire. But while I got these chickens out, I'm gonna be around the area so that the hawks won't get after them. And I'm gonna start watering trees. And you see I've walked full circle. And this is the other side of the pond. You know, when I was over at the little shallow pond, and I was pointing this way and I was talking about that's the water level of this pond. You know, now I've walked out that way, all the way back around the road and all the way back onto my property. I got a sump pump, a submergible pump in the pond, and it pumps water through this water hose, and it does a pretty good job. I'm probably gonna cook me some eggs out here. I'm gonna get the seeds out of them squash. But see, there's an olive tree right there. There's a blueberry bush. Here's a blueberry bush. Here. Okay. I don't know. I think I'm going to get off the live so I can work easier. There's some kind of bee just went in that purple flower, but I didn't catch it in time. There's some kind of caterpillar on there. That's why I don't get rid of them. A lot of people say, why don't you cut all this down? But really, it's not in my way right now. One day it will be. One day I'll be planting some nut trees and some apple trees out that way, and I'll cut them down. But for now, that's food for a lot of the wildlife. And so, you know, it's not in my way. There's not really any kind of reason for me to really stress about it. You know, it's not really causing no issue. And the grass is way more of a weed to me. It'd be different if I had some cattle to forage on it or something like that, but because I don't, it's pretty much just a real hassle. Because I don't have no tiller or nothing. I just use a hand tools to till my garden. And all them grass roots are kind of tough to pull up. So I just let the weeds like this grow and shade it out. And they're easy to pull up out of the ground. And it serves pollinators and everything. And then there's just a natural cycle. In the fall, late fall or early winter, it's going to dry up. And it'll just be easy to start fires with, and it'll be easy to chop down. And it'll be wintertime, so the weeds won't grow, you know. And all that I can come, the flowers will be gone. There won't be any, it won't be producing any nectar. It'll be dried up, and it'll be a dried up stalk. It'll have its seed pods on it. And I'll just chop it all down and let it lay where it lays. And so, and it'll mulch whatever grass that survived up under it. And then come springtime, it'd be really easy to till it up and put a garden there. Everything is trying to become a forest. It starts off with grass, then you get your taller, stalkier weeds. Then you start getting a few small softwoods like pines and stuff start growing. And then in their shade, you start to get hardwoods. And so a lot of people are interrupting this natural cycle, and they're just constantly trying to keep it at the grass stage, at the 1 year crop stage. And they're fighting nature when really there's a natural succession of plants. And you can work with nature instead of having to fight it so much. Like you see, I always, when I farm, I like to have forest because this provides mulch. This right here can hold water in your garden and suppress weeds. You just use mulch. And also, you don't have to just use dead mulch. You could use plants like squash with their broad leaves. You don't really want bare soil. The sun will start to leach salts out of this from the water evaporating. So you want something to cover the soil. And if you don't have, green plants, if you don't have broadleaf plants covering the soil or clover covering the soil, you want mulch covering the soil, because if this soil's bare and you just get a little bit of dew or rain and then that evaporates out of the ground, it pulls salts and minerals out of the soil and they build up in too high of a concentration, and it gets to where nothing wants to grow. And also, you might have plants grow in that spot that you don't want to grow there. And so it's just good to mulch them. I got that tank filling up with water so that I can take the watering cans and carry it. I noticed that if I put the whole 200 foot of hose, the water pressure drops so much that makes the water come out so slow that it's not even worth it. So it actually winds up being less labor for me to just, instead of running water through 300 foot of hose, just run it through 100 foot of hose, fill up that bucket over there, and then take 5-gallon buckets and watering cans and dip it in there and carry it to the trees in this spot. And it's actually, because if I pull 300 foot of hose, it comes out so slow at the other end that I'll stay there for like half an hour and think I really watered that tree good, and it barely got wet. So right now, I think I am gonna I'm gonna get off the live so I can work easier. But that shows you a little bit of what's going on today.